Folks, I just read a book which I strongly recommend. The book is called Zen Lobbyist, A Mindful Approach to Transforming Healthcare. Here is the cover for those of you who are viewing this. In this book, the author weaves together the story of his own career in the healthcare industry, the U.S. healthcare policy landscape, as well as a very personal and lived philosophy of mindfulness. The author is Gary Jacobs. He's had a brilliantly successful and lengthy career as a healthcare entrepreneur and as a healthcare lobbyist in DC. He was a pioneering industry leader in the HMO managed care era, the Medicare Advantage era, the ACA Affordable Care Act era, the ACO Accountable Care Organization era, the value-based care, and now he's attempting to usher in a new era of primary care for all. Gary became keenly interested in personal health and well-being after experiencing a number of health crises, a life-threatening blood clot, and then a stroke, which led him to study, practice, and teach yoga and meditation, which he does across the country. What's fascinating to me and super inspiring is that for most people, the story would have ended there. Personal health crisis leads to a major change in one's lifestyle. We've heard that before. But Gary is doing something different. He has gone and is going way beyond that. He's taking this mindfulness approach, and he talks about it in his book, and he's integrated it into his own professional work as a healthcare industry leader, as a Washington insider, as a lobbyist in DC in the healthcare industry, which is really profound. Gary, I just want to say, so excited once again to speak to you. You and I have had a chance to talk a couple of times, and it's just been incredibly inspiring, and I'm so excited about what you're doing in this part of your career. So, if you could share with folks briefly, what is the big idea here? What is the message here that can humanize the healthcare industry as well as policy making and really transform healthcare?
So, Zev, thank you very much for that beautiful introduction. My wife would wonder who that person was, but no, it's great. Thank you. I've really loved getting to know you a bit too and to chatting about this. So, the idea behind the integration of my mindfulness practices and my work is critical to my story and really why I wanted to write the book. The key behind the book that fits with my own personal alignment is that I incorporate principles around Zen philosophy into a new archetype called the Zen Lobbyist. Well, and let's be more specific.
Hmm.
Um, the mindfulness practices, the idea of being present in conversations, listening, being compassionate, learning gratitude as a practice are all critical components of who I've become. And when you apply it to lobbying, which I interpret as advocating, educating, communicating, and building bridges. So all of those principles and then tie it together. It is a noble profession. It's got an ethical framework, and you have to be really courageous to do this work. In my new paradigm of this archetype, the
Hmm.
Zen lobbyist, the idea of bringing courageous wisdom and courageous um, warrior type activity to what I am as a human being, to apply it to advocacy was the tricky part to put together.
Hmm.
And I felt that we could do that with energy, with vitality, and a word that needed to get out, especially in the divided times we live in today.
Well, I want to pick up on that, Gary. I really loved reading your book. I'm just going to say I read it in one sitting. I have come to deeply
Thank you.
respect and admire your humanistic vision. But I have to ask you this question, given what you just said, the extreme polarization, I mean, in American politics today, the likes of which I don't think we've ever seen in our lifetime, people are going to see this title and think to themselves, Zen lobbyist. This sounds a bit overly idealistic, a bit namby-pamby. this is so far afield of the current reality. There's no way this can actually work in this in the rough and tumble, insider politics, especially what's happening today. But just in general. So, how would you respond to that perspective as people literally? I think it's going to be one of the first thoughts people have as they see your title, the Zen Lobbyist.
I live it every day, and I
Hmm,
know the people that are quote unquote the leadership and who the media picks up as um, being the causal agent of division. And they're really not. These are human beings that found their way to Congress in a variety of different ways that are just like you and I, and really at the end of the day are looking to do good. The
hmm,
maxim that I've come to realize is truth is that the politics will always trump the policy. And in saying that, that means that we could come up with the best policy in the world, but given the political framework we're working within today, with the budget and with not having an operating government right now,
hmm,
it kind of creates sides. And I'm trying to use my background in this work to cultivate unity by coming up with common issues that everybody can agree on. People agree that healthcare is something that we all deserve to have access to in this country. They believe that
hmm,
physicians are critical to making that happen. They don't necessarily agree on the economics and the models, and that's
hmm,
what tends to get the highlights and the acknowledgement of the media. I can go well beyond that and look at my role as an educator for these guys
hmm, hmm.
and gals who really want to learn, but this is a lot of information you have to absorb as a congressperson.
Right.
And you need people that can be credible and be that archetype that I described before to listen to so that you understand all sides of an issue. And then if you vote with your party or you vote against your
Hmm,
leadership,
hmm,
that's the courage that you need as a lawmaker to make decisions. And I've seen some very courageous acts that I write about in the book by
hmm.
individual Congress people who lose their terms or maybe not after a very difficult vote on health care.
For folks who may be listening to you or looking at this and wondering, yeah, I'm just going to write this off, I would suggest one thing, which is you said it, it's about a philosophy, but it's also about courage. And it's so easy for all of us. And I think the moment right now we're in, the vast majority of Americans, and I'm just going to say this, it seems to me have sort of given up. They're just putting their hands up in the air. What can I do is the question I've heard from so many people. I'm just this, I'm just that, I can't do this. What you're saying is, you know, that's the problem. And what it takes is, and I think I've heard you and others say this. I think it was you who actually said this to me, a vision without execution is a hallucination. And so
Exactly.
I think your message is, listen, if this Zen mindfulness thing sounds namby-pamby, why don't you try to do, at least I'm doing something to make a change. I'm actually bringing this into the arena, into the battle. And it is a battle. And I think you're clear about that, but it is, let's do it in a mindful, collaborative way. And I found a philosophy that I've used in my career that helps me bring this literally into the most political arena in probably in the country, if not in the world, which is Washington, D.C. And so I just, again, it just feels to me like it deserves that. I do want to ask you
Can
though.
I give you can I
Yeah,
give you a little
yeah.
additional color around that? So I don't know how deep I got into this in the book, but it's the
Hmm,
next phase of trying to educate people on where we're going in this.
hmm,
And I call it the mindful edge. And it's a leadership style. And I will do coaching in this approach because I think it's so necessary given the framework you just laid out. In this concept, stillness is a strategy. It's not, oh, I'm trying to find calm. I'm praying. I'm meditating. I just finished a run and the endorphins kicked in. I just want to chill here for a moment. Whatever it is to be still and experience yourself is the beginning. Following that is the idea that compassion can actually be influence and you can connect deeply with other people
Mm,
through using compassion as a learned practice, if you will. And then to put the cherry on top, gratitude as renewal. And this to me is huge because in our field, as you well know, burnout is a big, big issue. And we're constantly and we're being exposed to new models, new ideas, new thoughts. But the idea that I'm grateful in my everyday world
mm,
for just being nice or somebody smiling at me and just saying,
mm,
I recognize you, you're there.
mm,
That's a renewing energy. And I'm trying to stop the negative clotting, if you will, of the flow and trying to bring people to a constant state of awareness and growth through
mm.
continuing their flow without blockage.
You've been at the forefront of literally every major policy, payment, and industry shift in American healthcare over the past 4 or 5 decades. It's just remarkable. How have you, do you have an example? How have you embedded and used this mindfulness approach, which you just outlined, the stillness and the compassion and the gratitude? How have you brought that um, in your own success as a business leader and now as a lobbyist?
Let me tell you, that's a really great question. Thank you for asking it. And let me go back in my life. In my entrepreneurial phase, I started several businesses in one of the biggest jungle warfare communities of healthcare in the country, South Florida. So I started a health maintenance organization in the late 70s. It went live in the early 80s. And I went from being a social entrepreneur to a business guy when the policy shifted from federal funding of these programs to you need private funding. And that's all in the book, and won't
Hmm.
go into that in detail. But honestly, I used to
Hmm.
go into a meeting, scripting everything and planning in advance how everybody should act and
Hmm.
what should be accomplished. After beginning my journey into this mindful edge concept that just grew within me as I became exposed to it, with a lot of help from Deepak Chopra and John Kabat-Zinn and people that really
Hmm.
meant a lot in my
Mm,
journey.
yeah.
I stopped
Mm,
scripting anything and I start to embrace that change was inevitable and that I can't control everything and I should just let it go and be in the moments and appreciate each other
mm,
in a more loving, compassionate way. Now, I know that could sound a little strange in a business sense, but I don't know, Zeb. I found that as a result of it, the universe did provide for me. Never have had to worry about the financial issues that
mm,
people seem to worry about
mm,
because I think in living this life, as Deepak Chopra said in Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, which was one of the, again, cornerstones of
mhm,
my evolution,
mhm,
success will follow if you're doing the right thing, so to speak, and not like going
mm,
in and I'm going to help you because it's the right thing, because loving kindness comes out of you and is real and genuine and authentic. The authentic person needs to emerge in each of us, and we need to do practices that get to our own authenticity, and that's the goal and purpose.
mm,
And I've have found it to be incredibly successful for people that want to learn in a different way and better way for people to grow and evolve.
mm,
I've on my teams, I've
mm,
had lots of people now graduate from working with me to being on their own. And in those environments,
mm,
they flourish immediately because these things are embedded in them by working with me. My kids, same thing. I have three beautiful sons who are all on their own, thank God, but they're all on their own and they have the power and strength inside them from the principles that they kind of laughed at growing up.
Right.
And now I find them using these principles in their everyday life.
Gary, I wish you the best. We're going to follow up, and again, for folks listening, how can you have do you have a website,
I
someplace people?
do at GaryMJacobs.com, and the book refers to it as well.
Yep, there's the book.
But let's start the dialogue. That's what I'm trying to do. There's a coaching mechanism I built in around the Mindful Edge. There's work in Washington that if you're a new organization or a startup organization, I'm trying to democratize lobbying and make it more approachable for everybody. It shouldn't be a mystical, magical thing where I hire an ex-congressman ex-Congress people, just so you know, that have access
Mm,
to the floor of the House of Representatives or the Senate. They can actually walk in and talk to members preceding a vote. That's a big advantage over
oh,
anybody else.
wow.
A lot of those guys go to the law firms on K Street or the big lobbying shops,
Mm,
and they call that home. And then they get clients. Clients pay them anywhere from ten to $30,000 a month on a retainer, and maybe they get a couple of visits. It's a very vicious
So
kind of
that's
cycle
so
if
so
not
that's what
handled.
you're when you talk about democratizing, that's what you mean. Yeah.
Making it more accessible to more people to meet their members by teaching them how they can do a fly-in with their trade associations,
Love it.
how they can at home. Every August, Congress people are home in
Mm,
their districts, and during holidays,
mm,
recesses,
mm.
meet them, teach them about what you do. Don't be afraid. They're just normal people like you. And the truth is, if you're emboldened with the information that you know about
Mm,
every day, share
mm.
it with them and teach them. That's part of
Yeah,
your
Gary,
responsibility as a citizen.
I'm ready to get on a plane and fly to DC right now. I'm ready to go. You've
They're not
inspired
there
me.
today, unfortunately, and we don't have an operating government.
That's true. Yeah, maybe I'll wait until
Hopefully, on our next talk, they will.
the shutdown will be, yeah, shut down. Gary, again, can't thank you enough. Really, really, really look forward to following up with you. And again, thank you for being, as you put it, the courageous philosopher warrior.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.